General George Washington was being driven out of New York by the British troops. This forced him to go to the west bank of the Delaware River. Washington was at a low point in the war. Many of his men's time expired and they no longer had to serve the army. Washington's plan was to cross the Delaware River at 3 points. Washington had some 2,400 men. As they were crossing the Delaware River at about 11 p.m., a storm broke out and it started to snow and sleet. Many of his men were poorly dressed and didn't have shoes. When they marched up to Trenton, Washington's men were leaving trails of blood in the snow. The main American force under Washington entered from the northwest. Sullivan attacked from the south. They surrounded the Hessians, and they could no longer retreat. Many of the Hessians surrendered and were killed. Whatever was left of the Hessians tried to form in the town, but they were under attack from behind. The Americans went inside the houses and killed the gunners and the foot soldiers. During this, Colonel Raw was fatally injured. The rest of the Hessians retreated to the orchard and surrendered here. In the end of this battle, 4 Americans were wounded, 2 froze to death. The Hessians had 20 killed and around 100 wounded. 1,000 of the Hessians were captured. After the surprise of the Hessians and Colonel Raw, Washington withdrew to the west bank of the Delaware River. He intended to return within a few days and try to recover all of New Jersey. Between the 29th and the 30th of December, George Washington went back into Trenton and received information that General Cornwallis was in Princeton with 8,000 British troops. On the 2nd of January, Cornwallis moved his troops from Princeton towards Trenton. The weather was wet and the roads were muddy. Cornwallis kept moving, driving the Americans back into Trenton. The Americans made a camp in the middle of the night, and the Americans left fires and went to the east and then to the north towards Princeton. General Cornwallis went to the fire, but did not find George Washington there. He tricked him. Mallard ordered his men to charge the Americans. The Americans, largely lacking bayonets, fell back. Mercer was struck down and mortally injured with a number of his officers. Mallard ordered his soldiers to charge. A number of the soldiers took refuge in Nassau Hall in Princeton, where they later surrendered to Captain Alexander Hamilton.
Minutes after they took out.
General George Washington and his troops lost General Mercer, but reclaimed Princeton from the British. Now moving on to New Brunswick, which was the British's last position. The British lost 40 soldiers, 50 wounded, and 187 missing.
Triumphantly.